Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome everybody tonight to Neon Twilight with Solaris BlueRaven. You can hear that the pollen has gotten to me, but happily she'll be talking half the time too. All of you know Solaris from her show on KCOR and her two shows on Revolution Radio. And she's been around almost as long as I have, not quite. And she has been a favorite guest and a good friend. And I am so delighted that she is here today to share with me our first attempt at actually doing video. Now you see she's lost a little weight, but then that happens when you squeeze yourself into a little show, little picture like that. But welcome to your show, Solaris. Glad you're here. Glad you're here with me.
Thank you. And yeah, I prefer my picture. So thank you, Barbara. It's lovely to see you, and it's nice to be here.
Well, you know, you get to a point in time where you think you have your finger on all the buttons, and then somebody adds more buttons and takes away some of your buttons, and you have to suddenly begin to learn and grow and evolve. And you know, at some point in time, you get cocky again and think, well, I'm evolved and I don't have to do any more of this stuff. And then something new comes along and you were challenged to either grow and learn to do the new technology or get put in the closet and get dusty. And so I prefer not to get dusty. I have enough trouble with pollen. I can't imagine what'll happen if it's dusty too. So so we have been doing this show once a month for a long time now, and our topics are always fascinating to me, and it's amazing because we always come up with new takes on old philosophies and old thoughts. And you suggested that we start tonight with a really great topic that I'm really fascinated with. You want to introduce what we're going to start out with?
Well, yeah, I thought it'd be a good idea to discuss the drone activity going on since it's been happening for several months now. I know there's a lot of speculation as far as what it is. For me, I'm looking at it like, you know, that there's something beyond what people are normally perceiving here when it comes down to an analysis. So I thought it'd be good to kind of dive into that and, you know, just see where it goes on an intuitive level. Also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. They're also showing up with, some are showing up with apparently orbs or spheres or some kind. I've heard that. So I have not seen any footage of that, but I'm understanding that that's also part of that observation. So have you seen anything like that?
I haven't seen anything like that. I know Mark
Okay.
has. He had a drone over his house apparently within the last week or so. But I wasn't concerned with them because, to be perfectly honest with you, I think they're ours. At least a lot of them are. And the reason they haven't been shot down is because the government really knows about them and they're just keeping it secret from us for some reason. There were rumors about they were searching for radioactive material, or they were searching for, you know, aliens or whatever. But I haven't figured out yet exactly what they are. I do know that the people were told that if they were shot down, that they should wear hazmat suits, which
Mhm.
makes you wonder, were they spraying something? Were they releasing something into the atmosphere? Do we have a new pandemic to look forward to?
I think that's
And
a good idea insofar as looking at it on that level, because from what I've understood and just some of the research I've been doing, there are some people that are claiming that they're getting sick after these drones visit their residence, insofar as hovering around. Or this has been one area in particular, was a fellow and his wife got very, very sick for like 4 to 5 days. Then their neighbor got sick. So it is what it is in the illusion of, but I think that's very interesting. And then also, I'm calling them scout drones because even if they look like they're harmless, I don't think they are. I think they're loaded with things that could be very harmful to the atmosphere or even us. So just something to look at.
well, look at what the stuff from the airplanes. They've got aluminum in the exhaust fumes in the fuel trails that have been sprinkling down on us for hundreds, decades. And so if you look at the planet and you think, isn't it pristine and beautiful and gorgeous? The reality is it's not. We are basically a garbage heap, considering the fact that our ozone layer is partially gone, and that planes are spraying all sorts of stuff, pesticides and things like that, on vegetables and plants, and whatever else they're spraying out there to try to control the population.
Hmm.
So you know, we aren't pristine. We aren't the huge jewel in the night sky that we once had been described as, and
Hmm.
it's getting worse and worse. And it's, I think what bothers me the most is it's the governments that are doing it to us. It's not some organization hiding in the closet. It's the actual um, government that
Hmm.
is doing this to us. That's putting so much into our foods and taking so much out that our foods are no longer healthy for us to eat.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's all, well, it's a weaponized environment, if you ask me. And I know we've discussed the weaponization of the biodome, which is pretty much what it is, but that's what we're looking at. And also the satellite systems I've talked about before, but that's also part of the dimming process in a sense of interference patterns with directed energy weapons or the potential behind that. And I'm very familiar with that area. So when you look and you see the bigger picture, it doesn't look very productive in any formula. It just becomes more and more saturated with the misuse of technology and the way they're using the transmissions and frequencies, very, very harmful so far as that goes. So yeah, it doesn't look pretty in my eyes either when I look and see this realm.
But when you there was a book out there, Escape from excuse me, Escape from Planet Earth, and I think in a way
Did
the
I write
popul
that?
not yet.
Wait, that sounds like something I would write.
But it in some ways it makes sense because we're polluting it to the point where it's not sustainable any longer.
Hmm.
And governments aren't doing anything to change that. You
No, I
know,
think they want to eradicate everybody. To be honest with you, I think that their end game is to probably get rid of a great majority of the population and just play the way they want to with their sandboxes. They all have their bunkers ready and prepared, so whatever comes down the pike, in my opinion, will sustain them, and we'll just see where it rides. I think this year, and this is another thing you're doing a lot of the forecasting. We're looking into the new year. Of course, that's the year of the
yeah.
snake. I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? Which I think is appropriate in a weird way for deception. And yeah, you can take it on a higher level, the snake. But in my opinion, I think it's just perfect for what's happening here on the timeline.
Well, if you go into the snake, if Gary Wayne has been a guest on the show a lot, and one of the things that
Hmm.
he brought up in one of his shows was that the angels, the archangels, were reptilian. So
Hmm.
when one begins to wonder if the reptilian archangels who fell to earth and became the watchers, who became the guys that well got involved, um, they were reptilian in shape. They could take on any form they wanted to, but their normal form was that uh, of of a snake, of a reptilian head, and you see that in a lot of the ancient carvings and things, paintings and stuff like that, going back several thousand years. So that in the year of the snake, that would in some way indicate reptilians coming more and more into power.
Yeah, I look at it as deception for sure, and I'd have to look into his background insofar as I know he's phenomenal when it comes down to the way he breaks information down. I'd like to look into that further insofar as how he's correlating an archangel with that kind of a reptilian descent, so or lineage. So that'd be interesting to look at. But nonetheless, yeah, it sounds like there's definitely something afoot with this particular new year coming in 2025. So hold on for the ride, I guess, right?
I think that among other things, yes, but you know, we're seeing the population going down,
Hmm.
and I'm wondering if those children born now as of 2025, if they are going to have as many alterations in their DNA as we have seen, you know, beginning to happen. So that
Hmm.
if the environment has changed and is changing our DNA, RNA, the children that are born after this particular time frame, how are they going to be? Are they going well? In the fetus as it forms has a reptilian um, form at some point. Part of the brain is called the reptilian brain.
Well, that's what they call it. I still look at it on a different formula, but still I get it insofar as how people are using that terminology. But to me, it's way beyond the spectrum of that, insofar as the way people perceive what we are as multidimensional beings. And the biosuit itself. I mean, it's a very complicated, complex machine, even though it feels organic. And I find that there's a lot more to it than that. But it is interesting, and the way I'm looking at everything, I know that there are several who want to repopulate this realm. But in my opinion, I think they're going to be automating more and more. And the people that are kind of dying off in the illusion of, I mean, there are people who are just up in their years. I mean, we're all getting in the illusion, not that we're going to go tomorrow, but my point is
Yeah.
eventually everybody's going to either move off planet or be gone. And you have a small percentage of people here. So you can either say they've been engineered or modified, but I think everybody has at this point, whether you wanted it or not. I think just by being here, you're getting modified to some degree on a genetic scale and a biomolecular level too. So it'd be interesting to see, but I still see the automation. I see cloning. I know they can use synthetic alters and create synthetic programs interface onto people. So if they wanted to say they want to insert a program connected to an ancestor, they could probably do that. I mean, it sounds really complex and scientific and sci-fi, but I'm telling you, there's capabilities like that. So who knows where they're going to wind up?
Did you see recently there was a woman who had been given a pig's kidney?
Not recently. Is that an older article or?
No, kidney or
Mm,
liver, I don't know which it
mm,
was, but she had a pig's organ in her, and
mm,
it saved her from years of dialysis, and it was fully
mhm.
functional. She walked out of the hospital.
Well, I've heard of stories like that. I think there was a fellow that had something similar like that, but he passed away. But yeah, I mean, I don't even think you need to use pigs. I think that you can use a cloning aspect where you can create almost like a 3D printer kind of thing, but you could literally create another organ on a synthetic level. And we have well, there's holographic repatterning in the spiritual realm. There's also, you've heard of etheric surgery, where even though it
Yeah,
sounds very sci-fi, there's levels of it where you can overlay onto the biosuit itself, the body, and actually repair the organs. Okay, so you could actually do that, and I know it sounds really weird, but it has been done, and there has been a lot of success with that in the past. I mean, this was back in the old days when people were doing this. Not these guys you see in Mexico, by the way, not that. This is
okay.
more of a light master surgery, which is more complex, but it's just dealing with frequency and repatterning the entire field of the biosuit to a point where they're actually overlaying the technology onto a physical organ, which repairs it by frequency.
But, I think that's been done. I just don't think
Yeah,
it's been made available to us.
no, I mean, it hasn't, but this is my point. But a lot of those are lost. They're kind of like lost templates of information, if you ask me. And now we're just getting swept away into the regular linear medical system, and we'll see where it all goes. I'm not a fan of it. Tell you that much.
Well, I'm not a fan of it either, but
No.
it has been happening, and I think what bothers me greatly is the fact that so much of it is being just held back. It's almost like, "This is great, this cures this, but we're not gonna tell them." And are they waiting for the population to be diminished? Are they, you know
Yeah, I don't think they have any intention of helping society. I think if they did, they would have done it a long time ago, to be honest with you. So I think the whole thing is just hoard the data, hoard the information, and make yourselves look powerful. I mean, it's just what they've been doing. And then a lot of these corporations and these people with the black sciences and technology, They could have unleashed a lot of different technologies to heal people. We could have resolved the cancer, okay, everything out here. Anything that creates a potential illness, we could have resolved that. They don't want to do it. They'd rather have the pharmaceuticals make all the money and everybody else kind of just plays the game in the linear world. And it is a class society too. I was looking at this like a class war because you're looking at it where you have I don't even call them elite, but the ones who have a lot of power and control and money are calling the shots. I mean, we've seen this with our political system right now. So you're seeing that going on. It comes down to it. And the rest are just working and not really understanding in the slumber of their lives what's happening here, which is really a shame. So, and those of us who have the mystery school backgrounds, and so far as we seek and we get answers and we keep experimenting, we find solutions. But, a lot of the time you'll see that getting snuffed out too.
Well, I can see what's happened. I can't see how they made it happen. So it's sort of like standing back and seeing, I don't know, like a huge painting that's gorgeous, and yet how did they do it? And with the healing, and I know I've seen a lot of material on things inventions that the government has bought so that the general public couldn't utilize them. And it's happening with discovery with medicine as well. So
frequency medicine, it's always been the solution to the equation. I mean, we know that as healers, a lot of us know, but there's also another level to it on a more holographic level. And then of course the advanced technologies and what we are morphing into when we start to change into a more evolved ascended suit, when we start calibrating properly with frequency, we're able to heal a lot better and function a lot better. And as I was saying earlier, this is a weaponized space. So you're constantly being saturated with things that are non-productive. They're not attenuated properly for your field, which can cause a lot of problems, if you ask me. So, yeah, I mean, it's just really unfortunate that it's this kind of an avenue that they're writing in.
Well, I think also when you look at things like transportation, like portals, it feels to me as though they are triggered by a harmonic of some sort, by a tone of some sort, so that it's not an electrical key, it's a harmonic key almost. And I'm wondering if
I would call it electromagnetic. Well, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm wondering if our vocal cords are being tampered with so that we can't produce the tones that would allow us passage through portals.
Well, that's interesting. Well, you're a walking star being, if you ask me. So you always have the the star portal, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, a Stargate. So, however it's configured, in my opinion, I think you always have that. But insofar as here, I think there is a lot going on where the body is getting attacked, through weaponization of aerial warfare, whatever else they're doing. And of course, you were talking about the foods and everything else. So that is a definite contributor when it comes down to it. We were just talking about this the other day on my show, and you're probably familiar with, I think we might have mentioned it, or I might have mentioned it to you, how the Pope was opening portals on Christmas Eve. And they use the terminology portal, which they don't use normally. Okay. So that's one of these co-opted words. Once again, he's trying to redirect. That's a mystery school thing on portals, or it goes beyond the spectrum of linear religion. But yet they're trying to use that terminology to reel people in. And I thought to myself, what exactly does he think he's doing? So it's very, very interesting to me to watch these guys in motion, see what they're up to, opening up their dark corridors.
Well, yeah. I mean, were they referring to portals within the Vatican, or were they
for the Jubilee? And this is another thing, that's all for them. The Jubilee's for them, if you ask me. It's not for anybody here. Nobody has to go through that. Oh, by their laws and their self-proclaimed positions in the illusion of power, they will say that you can be forgiven for this and that and this. It's just, I'm sorry, I just don't register that in any formula. It's a whole game board that they're playing here. But it's interesting. This is what they're doing. But I think it's more about themselves saying, well, we can get away with this. We've done all this, but now we're going to have a Jubilee and we're all forgiven and it's all good. It's not all good. And by universal law, they're still held accountable. That's just my 2 cents. So, I don't play that they play. I'm just not having it. And I don't think many people are either these days.
And unfortunately, I don't believe there's a golden gate in St. Peter's talking to people as they go through, because if that was the case, it would be fun to watch some of these people that have been so horrible, who think they're so saintly, getting up to the gate and St. Peter saying, I don't think so. You got another round to go down there, and you shoot them back down again. To me, it's. But my philosophy about religion itself is that it's a prison. And,
sure, yeah.
And it holds you back. It limits you. And I'm not saying people who are religious are wrong. I'm just saying their way doesn't work for me.
Hmm.
And to me, it's, I will speak directly to source. I
Right.
don't have to go through someone.
And we're
And
co-creators too. I mean, you look at it on the
yeah,
level of co-creation to source. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like being arrogant in any formula, but that's what we were designed to be, is that ascended master field integrated into source, or you can call the great cosmic mind, or a lot of other things. But yeah,
exactly.
these guys want to be the controllers. They want to be handlers insofar as how people navigate on this realm. It's always about controlling the mass collective. You do this and you do that, and you can get these benefits and rewards. And if you don't do this, well, you have to go here. We've talked about that. But my point is, it's pathetic that people follow that, like, just like lemmings falling off a cliff. I mean, they'll go
Yeah.
with the flow out of fear, or maybe the fact that they just don't understand the bigger complexity of what's happening. But yeah, that's unfortunate. And every time I see that, I just see red flags everywhere with the Vatican and what they're up to, and the things here in this country right now, which are concerning. And those drones, I wouldn't underestimate them. Like I said, just to kind of dial back or forward over to there, because in my opinion, I think they're loaded with a lot of spyware that can do some harm down the road. So we'll see where it rolls and what they're really up to.
Yeah, they seem to be very high tech. They're not your
Well,
buy it on Amazon kind.
no, they're
And
not.
it's really rather frightening. And in many ways, I keep seeing the Vimana, pictures of Vimanas, and it for some reason it just feels like they're like the Vimanas that were in India, that they are carrying something, and I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
It could be information. It could be it could be viruses. It could be Lord knows
It'd
what.
be more bioweapon related, if you ask me, or even with a radiation signature of something connected to some kind of explosions. I know you talked about this, which was right on the mark. You were discussing that, and it's a high probability. I'm sorry, but it is. These are not extraterrestrial. The ones that I've been observing. My friend, I don't know if I told you, but maybe I did. One of the women I co-host with once a month, also with the show we do, she had one over her house, and she has really good footage of this. And when I saw the footage, I said, "Well, this is definitely ours. This is man-made stuff." You see the lights, you see everything. She said she felt like she was drugged for weeks after that.
Oh
Like she
wow.
just couldn't clear her head. She said she didn't feel good. I mean, this is what I mean by the side effects. Now, maybe some people are more sensitive, especially spiritual people. But my point is that it's definitely broadcasting something, or there's definitely some kind of an interference pattern when it comes down to what's happening. So that's one person that has, she, in my opinion, she probably has the best footage I've ever seen. And I can't put it out there because I don't have permission to do so. I can share it with you, but I can't put it out on. She's not, I
Wait,
don't think she's sharing it.
I think what gets me is the technology. It's loud. It's visible. If it was of extraterrestrial whatever, we wouldn't be seeing it.
No, they're very stealth. Yeah.
So that's where I come in to say, it's they're ours, and they're not good because they're picking up, people are seeing them, and for the government to say, well, they're of no danger, but we don't know where they're from. That's stupid.
They're lying.
I mean,
That it's all
come
possible,
on.
James, under the
Well,
guise
it's
of national security or something else. They don't want to relay the data. Well, we can figure it out. I mean, everybody can obviously get an idea of insofar as what's happening. You can do your own remote assessments, and I still call them scout drones for now. And I'm just looking at it from afar, and I'm following people who are having issues when it comes down to their health in connection to these things being, in close proximity to their residences or their property. So I think that's something to look at. And I think that the bioweapons release is a high possibility that that could be going on because people are having side effects.
what about, could it be, see, I see a connection between these drones and all of the underground tunnels that are going on now.
Mhm.
To me, there's a reason humanity was driven beneath the surface once before,
Mhm.
and this could be similar, because
Right.
look at Darren Koyu. Now I can't remember how many thousands of years old it is, but it's really, really old. And
Mhm.
it was big enough to house, I think it was over 5,000 people, and there were like 13 different levels. Now, anytime a society goes to that much trouble to get that much underground, there's got to be something on the surface
Mhm.
that's threatening them.
Right. Could be a predator or something else, even in connection to the cosmos, galactic activity and everything else going on. Yeah, highly possible. That's something to look at. And of course, this posturing they're doing with a potential nuclear war, which, it is what it is. But I think that there could be some problems down the road next 4 or 5 months with something like that. Maybe not as serious. They talk about dirty bombs too. I mean, we've talked about this, and I know they've mentioned it months and months ago. But these things could easily deploy something like that. So even if they're just like hovering around and nobody's having any problem with them and it's all good, you just don't know. In my opinion, they could be utilized and hijacked. And we all know drones can be remotely controlled and also remotely hijacked and controlled. It doesn't take much to access those remotely by an enemy, just like anything else. And this is another thing I was going to bring up to you. And I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. I just heard about it last night. But apparently, people who are watching, whether it's on television or their computers, they're getting these broadcasts coming through that are really weird and almost supernatural. And some are like clicking, almost like the movie Signs. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah.
I don't even know what it is, so I haven't really done any real detail insofar as analysis on it, but I think it's interesting, and I think it's something to look at because something's getting hijacked. The waves are getting interconnected differently, or somebody's hijacking signals. So it could be an enemy, it could be another country, it could be somebody else. But I'm looking at this more and more now. I just got a few articles and a few little sound bites of information. I'm just blown away because these things are not normal. People are having live radio shows like what we're doing, or any pre-recorded, doesn't matter. And as long as if you're accessing the streams, it seems like they're trying to run an interference or connection. So that's just something to think about.
They're hijacking.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is to hijack even podcasts.
Right.
Podcasts
Yeah.
podcasts have gotten so popular that they now are becoming a target. And that's what I find fascinating, the fact that something that you and I started over a decade ago,
Right.
really, really far back, that it was play, it was fun, and
Mhm.
now it's a serious business. Now, even though we're very small still, very famous people are getting onto podcasts and having podcasts and putting their story out there, and
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, we all are now.
and it's fascinating to me that big newscasters are saying, and follow me on my podcast, and it's like, holy mackerel, was not 45 minutes to 2 hours on television enough for you? You have to
Exactly.
get on a podcast too.
Right. Well, they knew that the competition was in alternative media, so they went ahead and went and followed into that route. And of course, they are. I wouldn't say they're dominating, but they have their portion of followers that connect in. And of course, they're out there doing their thing. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. But we were on the front lines of truth media, in my opinion, which is not
Oh
about
yeah.
just another version of something, but actually putting some really good data points out to let people look on a different scale of what's happening versus the same old game board over and over again. So yeah,
Well,
I've seen that too.
that's true, but but with the pandemic, we started to put truth out there, and we got censored.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't have a
And
YouTube channel. I mean, I hardly have videos up there anymore. Yeah,
yeah,
and I know
and
you've been through it.
yes,
So, yeah.
I managed to dip my toe in the wrong pond a couple of times too.
No, it doesn't matter.
But no, but you kind of like to think and believe that this country, they say land of the free, home of the brave.
Mm-mm.
None of it's true anymore,
No.
but you like to hope
Right.
that we
Well,
can
yeah.
maybe get back there.
Well,
But
I'm not real cheery about what's happening with this new administration and the picks he's made, his selection and what's going on with Musk. I don't like it. So, I don't like it at all. I don't like what
he's
I'm
he's
observing.
he's not
Yeah.
even there yet.
Yeah, exactly, and there's already feuding, there's power trips, there's misuse of information. They're like kids in a candy store who, in my opinion, can get out of control very quickly. So,
Oh,
it's
probably.
just gonna get crazy. Yeah, I think it's just gonna go haywire, quite honestly.
Well, it was ultimate that we would go from one extreme
Mhm.
to the other extreme. There was
Yep.
not there was not going to be middle ground.
Yeah, there's no balance. There's never balance. It's always like that. It's the teeter-totter. No, I totally agree, which is annoying because I'm tired of that. It's like, really, this is just you guys can't seem to work it out and coexist as a party in general, just
Well,
one party,
when
right?
it's when we started out, it was the guy with the most votes was president, and the second most was the vice president.
Mhm.
Um, So, I don't know, should there be more parties? There should be
Mhm.
balance. There should be something different. There should be changes made.
It's
And I
really
don't
a mess. I think it's beyond control. I think that everything is so beyond it all when it comes down to how dysfunctional it is. I don't know how they can repair it at this point, even with these guys and sorry, but the third wheel of Musk and everything else on their agenda and what they want to achieve is not what they're going to get. So it's just getting really negative. It's getting really weird. And then with this drone thing and the escalation of global military, which in my opinion, they shake hands under the table quite a bit. But I always look when things are going on like this, I always look to the cosmos and to the stars to see what's going on in the heavens beyond, because honestly, it's always about the bigger picture and not this stuff here that's a distraction. Even though it's pulling us in with this gravity well, there's something else happening above our heads besides the weaponization of the satellite systems they're doing, which of course they're really full speed ahead on with that. So, yeah, it's all very interesting.
Well, they're talking about living on Mars,
Oh,
which
yeah, well.
is well,
Well,
that's the
you've written
goal.
about, what did they want to see over there? I mean, you can say however you want about this, but I've heard a lot of things about people traversing the galactic highway and getting to a destination called Mars. So we'll see. We'll see what's there. If he shows up like Planet of the Apes and it becomes just something else. It's like an after image of Earth, or maybe he thinks he's gone somewhere like in Total Recall, and in fact he's gone nowhere. I mean, that could be another potential. And I've said it before that the type of rocket systems they're using, it doesn't make sense to me because we have more advanced technologies to traverse, and we certainly don't need to be using those old rockets. But it's none of my business, as I sip my
But that's
tea.
what keeps the surface happy.
Right. It's a linear illusion and propaganda storm, and NASA was notorious for this. Of course, some of their data is obviously cloaked behind the scenery. What people don't know what really happens. When it comes down to what they're doing with their trajectory, and now they kind of pass the torch on with this guy. They're working with him, and he is no good. If you ask me, the more I look at him, and I hate to say it like this because I always looked at him kind of neutral, like okay, I don't really have any judgment on him, but I'm getting such a good snapshot of him. I just don't want to hear from him anymore. I didn't want to see him on or over there in the White House. And it's not like me to be like that, but I'm like, no, this guy's bad news. He's just
Well,
bad
I
news.
think I think he will bore easily, bore fast, and
Yeah,
be out of the picture.
I agree. Well, he's also spoiled. He's one of those spoiled people. $450 billion will spoil you. So you've got that kind of thing,
Wouldn't take that
personality
much to
traits.
spoil me, but
Well, you know what I mean. And another
yeah.
thing is, it's like there's so much they're trying to do to control this country. And it's usually for the benefit of the rich and not necessarily for the working class. So, yeah, it's something to look at
It's
here
gonna
that,
it, it's going to be interesting to watch. It's going to be fascinating to see the games that they play, and it's going to be fascinating to see how much truth actually makes it out into the media.
oh, I doubt any will. But, a lot of independent, journalists are out there doing their jobs and they're doing a good job. We do a good job analysis wise, it comes down to that. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm kind of like, well, just push through the new year and, you know,
Well, to bring it back a little closer,
mhm.
tomorrow is the new moon.
Yeah, it
And,
is.
I am more and more beginning to put more credence into the astrological stuff and what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. And not totally, but it the astrological cycles seem to be very much in synchronicity with a lot of things that have gone on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the progression of the equinoxes, you can see where cultures rose and cultures fell according to where we were in the progression.
Mm-hmm.
So and we are at a point in time where we're coming to the end of a cycle and beginning another cycle. And because of that, so much is changing. And we're beginning to see the instability of what had been theoretically rock solid beginning to
Mm-hmm.
crumble. And, if we can step back and say, okay, so generations yet to come will have to build up again, but hopefully they'll have the knowledge of the past and not make the same mistakes again. That
Mm-hmm.
said, we've made the same mistakes again that have been made many times already in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
So
like a carousel ride that never ends.
it,
Same old
it
thing, different day, different color.
but it it should make sense that seeing that, knowing that, you would think that humanity would try
Hmm.
to take a
Right.
different pathway, to not go the same way. I mean, I'm pretty sure we'll have 4 years, maybe 12, of reasonable peace.
Hmm.
But while that's going on, under the surface, there will be wars going on.
Hmm.
So
You
we may
you
not.
see okay, but you see peace in the next few years?
I see calmness, more
Okay.
calmness.
Well, that's
I
good.
wouldn't I wouldn't I wouldn't say peace, but I do feel that um I don't think Putin is going to stop. I
Hmm.
think he's going to continue his battle of acquisition. I don't think China's going to stop. I think they're going to take back Taiwan.
Well, Trump's
Um,
not gonna stop either. So you've got 3 bullheaded people going full speed ahead right there.
you've got Trump that's talking Greenland,
Oh,
Panama,
I know.
and something else. I forget what the other was.
He needs to leave Greenland alone. I mentioned that. Panama, okay, whatever. But yeah, he's just really just like I said, like kids in a candy store. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. I'm just gonna like I'm not even entertained, so I'm not gonna get any popcorn or anything like that. To me, it's like cut a door. Do you remember the purple crayon? We talk about that book a lot. Do you
Yeah.
remember that? So it's kind of like that. Just cut a door to a galactic highway and do your thing. Because
Well,
honestly, this is crazy. I'm just
what
gonna ignore them as best I can. I don't
what
even know what to do with them anymore.
what it looks like to me is that we are living a huge monopoly game.
Yeah, it is. It's space monopoly too. There's also a space monopoly. I don't know if you play that or not, but oh yeah, let's go, invest in Jupiter or Mars. And oh, that's prime real estate right there for Musk. And they already have plans to develop. I mean, good
Yeah.
luck with that once you think you're gonna get there. But it's like it looks better from here until they get to their destination. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
I kind of it's seeing that it's sort of like, okay, so he's going to put a hotel up there and a golf course, of course. But it's when you have all of these multi-billionaires out there throwing their money around, um,
It's a play yard.
somebody is going to have to pick up the garbage, and I have a feeling it's what used to be the middle class.
Well, we're not picking it up, and one thing I will make a point of is that other destinations and other configurations of space-time are occupied. So good luck with them trying to think they can get over there and muscle on any different type of beings, life forms,
Oh
with
yeah.
their
Oh
linear programming. Because this is nothing. You leave your baggage behind, and a lot of the time, even though we feel like we've developed a lot here on this realm, it's actually backwards when it comes to off-world systems and planetary systems and intelligence systems. So to me, it's kind of like you guys are in for a big surprise. And when you change the space-time configuration, the Mars they may be observing isn't even close to the Mars that's really there. I mean, everything changes in the field and frequency. I mean, you know that. And it would be
yeah.
interesting to see what they come across if they even succeed, which at this point, I think they're just too, I think all of them are just constantly combative with each other to such a degree they're becoming dysfunctional. It's like snakes eating the tail,
Well,
or
that's
snakes
who
in a
has the
basket.
biggest car collection and who,
Yeah.
who has a spaceship that can land on a dime. I mean, it's getting to be a little frightening, but at the same time, while all of that is going on, all of us are being impacted by the energies that are around us. We
Hmm.
have the potential and the capability to to evolve, to grow, to stretch, to become better. And and that can happen in spite of the fact that we're struggling with money and we're struggling with finances and we're struggling with gas for the car and all of that. But but
Makes it a
the
little more challenging. Yeah.
well, it does. But Solaris, the material is there. Your books are there. My stuff is there.
Hmm.
There's a way to evolve above and beyond all of this. Yes, you're going to get caught up in a lot of the backflow, but at the same time, there's a greater awareness, consciousness, understanding that is available to us if we reach for it. And
Hmm.
I'm finding that there are some people that are reaching, and then others that have just quit. And it's just
Yeah.
like you can't do that. This is not a time to quit. This is where the challenge is.
Right, exactly. Well, I think it's unfortunate though that there is a pre-selection when it comes down to people and what I would call whatever you want to call these people who have too much money and time on their hands, the illusion of because I will say one thing: money does buy opportunity. It does help project and create this a different outcome when it comes down to where people can achieve and accomplish. Not that you can't do it, but without the money, but it is harder. It's harder to do your own. Say you want to do whatever project you want to work on. It's a lot easier to have people want to fund you or like, the NASA contracts, for example, with Musk. I mean, it's a prime example of him being contracted to a point where he can do what he wants to do. It does take money, unfortunately, to do a lot of these things. But on a cosmic scale, we can traverse and do what we choose to do. But this is where they get involved in trying to snuff that out and running interference and sabotage. So once again, the stuff that we do as independent mystics or whatever you want to call yourselves, I mean, that literally gets, it gets tracked and it gets interfered with a lot. And I can speak from my own experiences back, years ago. These guys
Oh
don't
yeah,
want you getting out of here. I could have gotten out of here probably about 4 years ago before the shutdown. Things were changing here. I know I could have gotten out, and the aerial warfare showed up. So, yeah.
well, it's to me, the challenges are what make you better.
Well, they can, but it does get tiring after a while. I mean, when you think about it. But, I mean, I don't know about you, but 20 years of my life, it's like it's been a long road. It's been a long road, and even though I'm optimistic still in my own psyche, but it's like you're around this wormhole of people that nothing changes really. It's all the same distortion in the field. You still see the weaponization of what's happening here and the misuse of technology, and after a while, it's kind of like you just want to just disappear. And that's kind of me, in a sense. I just want to traverse the galactic highway, and it's not going to be through these ships that they're creating and with these space programs here. It's going to be with ours. I guarantee you when we go. It's not going to be the stuff. And then these little drones, they're predators. If you ask me, I would watch out for them. I'm not a fan of them. I know you're not supposed to do anything about having them around your residence. And thank goodness they're not bothering me right now, because I don't think I would like that.
Well, what happened to programs like the Pegasus program? That was just for traveling back in time, though, right?
I think a lot of those, I mean, those were CIA operated, right? A lot of those, they probably changed the name on some of them. They achieve their objective and then they move on to the next project. But a lot of this technology, yeah, you can create the illusion of time travel, and that's, sometimes it's frequency related, so it just depends on what they're doing. Like with Montauk, that comes to mind, the Montauk project, where
Yeah.
supposedly they were in between different types of dimensional fields and timelines, and were able to interface with that to some degree. But at the same time, was it just a mind hack, or were they actually really navigating and going to a destination? Or was it just a great experiment? I mean, I can't answer that. I've interviewed people who've been involved in that. But I think that there's great potential to do so many infinite things. And I do know one thing: once you get interfaced with off-world intelligence networks and systems, you get a whole different space-time database where you can navigate. And there's just nothing holding you. There's nothing holding you back, because the guys here on this realm don't have that kind of access and control. So that's why I always call them off-world intelligence networks and systems, because that's the one I know about. And it says that's the game insofar as beyond the game. That's the end game, if you ask me, where we need to go versus their garbage here. So,
Well, you I think you've talked to to Patterson, who did the Rendlesham. He's the one that touched the
oh yeah, a
drone.
long time ago, yeah.
So, where do you think that drone came? It was a drone that he touched.
He originally
Where do you?
called it a craft when I interviewed him. I guess they changed their terminology.
Well, he said it was like about the size of a Volkswagen.
They always say that. I used to drive a yellow Volkswagen. That's so cute. Not to digress, but it's funny. What I see is definitely that. It seemed to me like that was kind of a beta test experiment here with exotic technology to see how he would react, or how their personnel would react to something exotic. And also the imprinting. And we were talking about this just the other day, the osmosis effect of something that comes from, whether it's a different space-time configuration or a different formula in frequency, would have an effect, psychological effect, energetic effect on the person, the target or whoever it was that was interfacing, or close proximity, right? Whether it's radiation sickness or something else. So that would explain a lot. The binary, wasn't he having the ones and zeros? That's not off world. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a standard, kind of digital thing. I mean, you think about it. So to me, I don't think that's anything extraterrestrial. I mean, that's a kind of a universal thing, and they want to correlate it to that. So I find it
Okay.
very interesting, but I think it's a beta test. I think the whole thing was a psyop, and these guys are walking away just brain hacked to death when it comes down to what happened to me, trying to put the pieces together. And the more they get regressions, sometimes regressions are okay, and other times people are inserting data. The
Oh
people
yeah.
that are running, you know that. I mean, you have to be really careful about people you're giving your power to when you're under the influence of just being in a hypnotic space. And then they're, oh, was this what happened? Or let's go here. And no, I mean, this is why. Thank goodness what happened to me. I was clear. I wasn't like asleep. Okay. So that made a huge difference. I didn't have to go through a regression or anything like that. I just took notes like a mad scientist. But these guys, it can be anything. But in my opinion, I'm always suspicious of here first, and then look to off-world species and off-world intelligence, because he seemed like he had an awful lot of problems after that experience.
Yeah, the binary code was one that it fascinated me, but now that you mention it, with a lot of our satellites that we put out into space and everything, we wrote in binary code on them, assuming that whatever culture or civilization picked it up would understand what it meant.
Right. Well, we went from
Re-
analog to digital too, right?
Yeah, and
So,
well, the thing is, they called it they call binary code universal, but only to this planet. I
yeah,
mean,
I can agree with that in a sense. To me, the synthetic telepathy interface, telepathy in general, that to me is the norm in a sense of off-world navigation. And to me, I don't think we really need all these extras like they want to put in here. I think that's more for their military personnel, if you ask me, or for anybody in their exotic technologies department, maybe. But I don't think it's necessary, to be honest. And the geometrics, and we've talked about the geometric formulas associated with the cosmos as well. Everything is a frequency. Everything is a vibrational field and frequency. So do you translate that into the binary system? Binary code? I mean, you could, I guess.
well, depending on what system you're using, but it
Right,
depends
exactly.
on what language, what society, what culture,
Right,
there is out there.
right, exactly. I still look at frequency signatures. I think for me, just dialing in through the frequency bands, to me, that's a good way to navigate. Just by the signatures and the frequencies and the vibrational fields, and then everything else is what it is. But interfacing with that technology, I mean, when I was interfaced with the tech, I didn't see ones and zeros and this, that, and the other. You don't see that aspect of anything. You just get plugged in. So it is interesting. But you wrote a beautiful book. I mean, you guys did a great job with the book on UFOs. And another thing is, didn't you write about drones a little bit here and there? Or
Yeah,
no?
some of the stuff did sound like
Or you
drones.
need a sequel if that's the case, because
Oh no,
look what we've got now. I know I just put that out there,
no,
Barbara.
no,
But yes. No, but listen,
no, no,
gonna
no,
head
no.
we don't, you never know. A couple months from now, we'll figure it all out. We'll have a better snapshot of what's
Well,
happening here.
the thing is, when I plug in, I just know.
Yeah, that's the
It
way to go.
it's not a matter of having to interpret something.
Hmm.
It's a knowingness. It just comes through as this is a knowingness. When the drones started out, somebody said, "What do you think they are?" And I said, "They're ours."
Hmm. Yeah.
And they said, "How do you know?" And I said, "I just know."
Yeah. I mean, that's same here in a sense, but also the idea behind them being something other than that. I mean, in a sense of, I don't like them. I don't like them at all. I think they're scouts, and I don't like scouts. Scouts usually cause problems,
Well, when you stop to think of it, it's basically at night they're out there.
which is
So
more suspect. Yeah.
that to me says something. I mean, if they were out there during the day too, I think, okay, maybe something is going on. But I guess the nighttime stuff is just to hide their presence. But I look at them like black spiders.
Oh, that's interesting. There used to be a lot of people who would see that insofar as the spider technology. I know the
Hmm.
astral spiders, whether it's spiritual, like astral plane, but I remember seeing or hearing about a lot of people seeing those things and associating them with some of that too. Technology, whether it's a technology parasite, electronic parasite, or it's something in correlation. It's interesting you mentioned spiders, though. Yeah.
Well, it does lead you to think. Okay, so now I believe there are extraterrestrials here, and I'm very careful. These days I don't call them aliens because those are the people that cross the border. So extraterrestrials are those from other realms. And I believe there are some here, but not to the degree that everybody is talking about.
Well, you know where I stand with all this stuff because we're the sense of the visitor, so we are those beings. And I
Oh
do have
yeah.
alien intelligence, and I have no problem talking about alien intelligence because I'm not responsible for the people that hijack the word alien for the border. So yes, I did write alien intelligence because there's a DNA
Okay.
sequencing to the bloodline which correlates to off-world species and which of course look like us and it's not like greys or reptiles. So in my opinion, yeah, we are them and they are us. And a lot of people just don't realize what they are and they won't realize it till they get out of this matrix, probably, which is unfortunate. But you've talked to Jeff Woolwine before, haven't you?
I
Or
think
no?
so. Yeah.
Okay, so you remember when he's taking all these pictures, and you can look at some of them and say, well, maybe not. But I swear to you, he's been tracking drones for the past year. And he was on my show not too long ago, and I saw some of the footage. And this was before all this real stuff started happening over here. And also it's global now, so it's not just about one area on the
Yeah.
East Coast, which is something I think is very important to note. That's not just one area here, but his pictures, I mean, he was talking about these things, the drones. He also mentioned the orbs. Some people are calling them spheres. I wouldn't necessarily call them spheres. I'd have to look deeper insofar as the orbs go because I haven't seen any real clear footage of anything that looks like a real orb to me. What do you think?
I've seen some that were definitely orbs.
Okay.
I have pictures of them,
Oh, cool.
but I think they're few and far between. I've seen them around crop circles often.
Okay.
So
That
that
makes more sense.
so it's sort of it feels as though they are almost like sparks, when you hit something and there are sparks. I
Like
think
plasma? Oh,
yeah, I think the orbs are literally something that are a result of an interdimensional event.
very interesting. Well, that makes sense. I've heard that also with the crop circles, and maybe it was from you, but that makes sense to me. Whenever you're having a different, you're changing the field, then you would have a
Yeah.
different type of anomaly show up. That makes perfect sense. And then another one is, are these particular drones chasing or tracking these spheres or these orbs that are navigating around? And some of these orbs and some of these spheres could be correlated to people. So that's another
That,
thing to look at.
that's a really good thought because I felt they were looking for something
Hmm.
something or someone,
Hmm. Yeah.
and they seemed localized. They seemed to be they weren't scattered all over the place. Um, so that it was a matter of what are they looking for? Who are they looking for? And it felt like more of a who than a what.
Hmm. A
So
signature of some kind.
I'm wondering if wouldn't it be cool if there was some sort of underground prison here for extraterrestrials and there was a breakout
Well, if that's the case,
and
I probably helped break them all out.
no, but
Hey,
and the drones are actually out there looking for those people that escaped. Now,
well, it
are
could
they
be
good
that.
guys or bad guys?
I would call them the ones who are escaping more than likely good. What's interesting? Let's not forget the implants that people carry with them, whether it's through abductions or
Yeah.
covert military abductions, because those are signatures and they can be switched on and off depending on the field. They can also be interfered with the drones, with electronic warfare departments. So that's something to look at. And I've been looking at that too because my signals, I have signals built into me. Okay, you know that, and they register. I could go out tomorrow and have somebody measure them, and you'd see them. Okay, this isn't a game. I've had these things for over 20 years now. So, and I can remember only one thing when I saw. I thought a friend of mine thought it was a UFO, but I thought it was a drone, and this was about 10 years ago, and it was hovering here, and it was beautiful. I thought, wow. My cats ran to the window and looked at it first, and because I didn't know what it was, and then I saw these lights, like it was a white pulsing light. It was about, I don't know, it lasted about maybe 5 minutes, and then it disappeared into the stars. And that's the only thing I've ever seen. And I was to this day, I'm like, well, it must have been a drone. And my friend Kevin Estrella is like, no, that was not a drone. I can't confirm or deny. And I think I've been so like not brainwashed, but so like connected to linear tech that in a sense of, just assuming it's them, that I just don't even want to look at it on a different scale.
Well,
It's kind of fun.
you know how sometimes when a tire scratches the sidewalk or something and it sends off sparks?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think the uh the spheres are. That possibly when something comes into this dimension or goes out of this dimension, those sparks are the spheres that we see.
Hmm.
Now, Lynn Kantai, who did Phoenix Lights,
Mm-hmm.
spoke of having the spheres almost being a predecessor to what the Phoenix Lights were.
Oh, interesting. Well, you make a good point with the electrostatic because that makes a lot of sense to me when it comes down to that. And I've heard electrostatic before in the field, so that's highly possible. The sparks you're discussing, could be that electrostatic. Yeah, very interesting.
Because they do kind of come and go.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think they're intelligent. They're intelligent control, under intelligent control, I should say. But we also can control those things, and as you know, through your own psychic mediumship or whatever you do on a spiritual level, people can control things. They can create, manifest. They bring these
Oh
energies in.
yeah.
I had aura photography done on me a long, long time ago, and there were orbs in my aura, and they were photographed. I mean, in my crown chakra, I had all like a bunch of beautiful like white orbs in there. So I'm like,
Yeah, but look
you
what
know,
was happening. You had a flash of light that was imprinting your aura when it took the picture,
mm-hmm,
and that could have created the friction
mm-hmm,
that that had created the orbs. And at the same time, it was your energy field connecting with another energy field and creating sparks.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very cool. Have you ever had your aura done like that?
I
I think
have.
it's so cool, isn't it?
Oh, they are. It is so
I
much
think it's
fun.
fun. I had mine done, and it was a long, long time ago, before the induction in 2004. But they had this. She said I had a red, and I saw it. It was like this red scarf across my chest, and she said it's very rare. I'm not sure what it means, but I thought it was weird. It
Oh,
looked
you're
like a
rare.
robe.
There's no doubt about that.
No, but
You
I mean,
are.
I just thought it was interesting because I wasn't sure what she was talking about, but I could see it. You could see
Uh
it in the
huh.
picture. I'm sure I have that picture around here somewhere. It's an old-fashioned one, though. It's not before they had all the, their tech and stuff like that.
Well, I think that there's so much that can be measured, that can be used for, among other things, you know, predicting, the physicality of the person by
Mhm.
what's going on in their aura. Um,
Mhm.
very, very. I mean, I love looking at people's auras because you can always tell when they're angry, even though they're sweet and nice, and you
Mhm.
can always pick up where there are issues. And um, I've never done it really in a medical sense, but
Oh.
more of an emotional thing. What's stressing you out? Why are you being, stressed in this particular area? Or are you having headaches because something's going on in your head? What are you thinking about? What is being processed that you need to do in a different way? That kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
I think it's awesome, but that makes you a phenomenal healer as well, even if you weren't utilizing that skill, because you're able to see. And that's a big gift, if you ask me. It's a huge gift. And a lot of people need help right now. I see. I don't know. There's all kinds of modifications going on with the electromagnetic fields, as I was mentioning. So I think people are kind of like wormhole oriented. Their auras, and it seems like there are a lot of tears in the field to me right now with a lot of people. So, and I mean, I have to work on myself, but I've been, remodified so many different times. It's kind of different, but a lot of people do. They do carry that, and I think the stress alone. I mean, that cortisol, that'll get you. People
Oh
have a
yeah.
lot of cortisol in their system, and it's due to stress most of the time.
Well, everybody's stressed these days. It's hard
Hmm.
to find anybody that isn't.
Yeah.
Um, I
I think
know
I'm
that.
just used to handling stress, and I don't think that's healthy. Just because I can navigate, under pressure doesn't make it good.
Well, sometimes for me, stress gives me the push I need to get something done or to initiate something new.
Well, that's
Stress,
good.
it's sort of a long time ago. I had a car accident, and I sued the people, and I was followed by a private detective, which I thought was hysterical because, I
Mhm.
wasn't selling drugs. I wasn't doing anything, but they had me followed by a private detective.
Yeah.
And he was so intrusive, it triggered panic attacks.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And
That's terrible.
yeah, it was.
What a
And, but
jerk.
but no, it was fun. I mean, no, wait, I turned it into fun.
Didn't you tell him your dad was FBI? That
Well,
would have really pushed him back.
he was so bad at what he was doing. He set his camera up and aimed it at my booth at the Renaissance Festival,
Mm.
and he did it, and I knew who he was, and I knew what he was doing, and I knew his name, and the whole thing, and he got obnoxious. And one day he had a blonde with him a number of times, and then there was another lady with him, and he got very obnoxious with me that day, and I went up to him and I said, "Well, this is either your wife or your girlfriend, but whichever she is, does she know about the other woman you've been carting around with you?" And he had his wife with him that day.
Oh, how funny. I love it.
Not sure he had his wife with him much longer, but
What a jerk.
it's but those panic attacks are amazing because they come
Mhm.
out of the blue.
Mhm.
And now I sit back and say, okay, what has triggered this? Because life is good, and I learned
Mhm.
from it. And
Right.
it's either that or you're going to die of a heart attack. One way or another, you get through it.
Right, you control your breathing, and a lot of people, you can call it some people think it's more subtle energy field, psychic attack. I mean, when I say psychic attack, it's more like negative energy just completely just focused on your field from maybe a person or a collective or an atmospheric condition. But yeah, a lot of people still suffer from that. Anxiety is a real big one. I think the shutdown did a lot of that, the PTSD
Yeah.
stuff. People were very uncertain about a lot of things. I know I didn't sleep worth anything. And then I hear that it's so not healthy when you don't sleep. And I just don't sleep. I'm sorry. I sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours a night if I'm lucky.
Well,
So,
that's fine.
I
As
think
we
so. I mean, uh,
as we get older, we don't need as much.
well, I'm glad because I'm like, there's no way I can really sleep like I used to. There's just no way.
Well, I've been
It's real
under
interesting.
a psychic attack. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Now that's um I felt I was bargaining for my life,
Hmm.
and I was really, really sick. And
Wow.
I was working down in Virginia, and there was a coven of witches down there that did not like the fact that a white lighter was coming in.
Wow. That's
And
interesting.
and I got so sick I could not breathe. And I finally said, I have to go home. And so I got on the plane and um, got home and went to the doctor. And, I said, just give me your best antihistamine because I can't breathe. And he looked at me and he said, is this psychic stuff? And I said, oh, could be. And he said, it's either that or you were in a barroom brawl. And I said, nope, no barroom. And I said, why would you say that? And he took me and he stood me in front of the mirror and he pulled my collar down and you could see somebody's handprint on my throat, all black and blue.
Wow.
And
That's crazy.
I said, yeah, I guess it was like a barroom brawl. And so I went back and somebody said, why are you going to go back? And I said, because I'm not going to get run out of town like that.
Hmm.
And I had a lot more respect for what I did. So the element of protection came in and it was fine.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, I know a lot of I mean, my background is craft related, but we don't do stuff like that. I've never been involved in areas where they go after people. Shields
well,
always,
yeah,
self-defense, psychic self-defense. And but I'll tell you one thing, and you probably are aware of this. If you're on an astral plane, hey, it's if they come to you, you have every right to get rid of them any way you need to on the astral. And I've done that before in the past. I've
well,
gotten rid of astral entities and whatever else shows up.
set up a circle of mirrors facing out.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
have
mean,
that. Yep.
that's great. I mean, it, whatever is going to bounce back at them even worse.
Sure.
So, but it made me a lot more respectful of the gifts that I've got.
Oh, yeah. Well, you do have some beautiful gifts and powerful gifts. And you don't want to forget all those. So I'm glad you have your books out as well. That's what I mean by time capsules and benchmarks and
Oh,
all that good stuff
yeah.
here.
Well, speaking of books, you've written a series of books that have gotten more and more complex as you've gone on in time. And
Mm-hmm.
I really, were you aware that what you were doing was creating a whole series of development that got more and more and more intense as you went further and further and further into your writing?
I think it became more technical. I know that after the interconnection with the technology and decoding everything, I just started going full speed ahead and decoding data and experiences of where I've been and what I was doing. And yeah, it seemed to me like it was getting a little more complex, and the information was becoming more expansive and vast. And it started morphing and morphing, and then the data came in, like insofar as just being able to access and the gnosis you talk about, that knowing that
Yeah.
information where you just understand how to interpolate the data correctly. And that all came through. I mean, the bottom line with all of my books that are recent, and I'm happy with those. I mean, it became almost not an obsession, but I was so driven to do it because that to me was the destination, is to get out of here, and this is the way to do it. And if you look in those books, there is a sequencing and connection to how we can calibrate and get out of here. It's not just empty data, it's not just empty space, but there's a lot in there. And it's interesting how it starts off with just one level of transmutation through ascension, and it goes into this whole morphing process after the induction. You think about that. So yeah, now I'm like, I'm not obsessed like a mad scientist, but I guess part of me is still I'll be happy when I traverse the galactic highway. I'm determined to keep working on my own science, however it formulates itself. And even if it's alone, That's okay. I don't care. But yeah, it's interesting, and I don't think I would ever take any of those words back insofar as the way I've written things. I like the way the formula is working. So, and hopefully everybody else does too.
Well, just a note to everybody: read them in sequence. Don't try
Agreed.
to read. Do not try to read the last one first.
No.
You won't know what she's talking about. But
Yeah, and even the hardest one is either Remote Black Operations and Aries Beyond 52, because I wrote that under the duress of the program. So it was very hard while I was writing that book. And I do know a lot of people couldn't get through it. They were like, this is hard for me. I don't understand. Well, it was hard for me to write it. But eventually, after you start doing the research about the technology itself and a lot of other things, you'll look at it and say, oh, I get it now. But it's not relative. I mean, it's just something I had to put down during the event, because it was very important that I documented what was happening.
do you think that maybe because you are sort of really operating under the radar, so to speak, that you've been able to get further along than had you been out there with huge publicity and things like that?
I think it definitely hidden in plain sight had its benefit, even though it felt like I was being blacklisted and like the little black sheep that was cast out. But I was able to do a lot of different things with my writing, and I was on the radio. I was still navigating. I still have my technologies built into me as far as that goes, and I just went full speed ahead. But I was never really left alone. I always had some kind of monitoring going on, back then, and then I always had, well, like surveilling and things that happened, shadow people here and there that would
Yeah.
show up. I mean, that just happens when you're plugged in. But as you get older, they don't really care as much, in my opinion. I think that 20 years is a long time, so they realize. But still, I mean, we're all on these little. Whether you're a MyLab or contactee or just somebody who's extremely gifted, they're going to keep a file on somebody. So it is what it is.
Well, my thought when Ancestry.com and 23andMe started gathering DNA, I swore to everybody, this is not just a service. They're looking for people. And
Sure.
then when the pandemic hit and they were swabbing, getting DNA getting your DNA, they weren't looking for germs. They were looking for DNA.
Sure.
And so I still am trying to figure out what the purpose of the gathering of the DNA was. Are they looking for Rh negatives? Are they looking for people that have other qualities in their DNA? What was the purpose of the DNA gathering?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think a lot of it, once again, it boils down to your genetics, where you come from, how old is your ancestral bloodline, the benchmark, because, we've talked about that before, but the idea behind our ancestors actually having experiences with extraterrestrial type beings or advanced beings. We don't know. We don't have a benchmark of that, unless it's word of mouth or in somebody's documentation with their family history. So you look at the ancient bloodlines. I think there is something there, and I think they're looking at that for sure to see what they can extract out of it for their own, whether they're reverse engineering or whatever else they're doing with that. I think that's a high possibility right there when it comes down to it, which is real interesting to me. And also the frequency. I was suspicious when they started using all these machines to x-ray you when you go through the airports, because implants go off. I don't care what
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
says. I've been through these machines and I get wanded a lot. And initially in 2004, I mean, it was like crazy because my energy, I'm built in. I have stuff in me that has a signal in it. So unless they understand it or there's a file on it, they're not gonna get it. So I think honestly, I think they're looking for implants. I think they're looking for those who have been implanted with technology that's exotic, because once again, it's considered something that's enemy. If they don't have control or access to it, then who does? They want to know, right? So you have to look at those levels of black technologies. Who did it? Who's involved in it? Is it something extraterrestrial off planet, or is it something here, an adversary on the global scale? I mean, this is what I think they're looking at, to be honest with you. Just the same they would look at a UFO or another drone or anything else. And that's a threat. I mean, that's a threat because they can't identify what it is and who put it there and what it does.
Well, it's kind of like Superman, he came in on the spaceship. Had he not had superpowers, they wouldn't have known that he had come from another planet,
Right. Just kind
theoretically.
of cloaked.
So I keep thinking they lost track somewhere to bloodlines,
Hmm.
and they're trying to identify those bloodlines and where the preponderance of that genetic material is.
Well, like
They
the seed banks they have. Remember those?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You're looking for DNA that you want to save data and preserve information. In my opinion, maybe it's something like that, along the lines of that. I mean, I don't want to say Jurassic Park, but my point is that they can clone and they can do things if they understand the sequencing of the DNA. So maybe it's something as simple as that. Comes down to it.
It could be. It's
Yeah.
just that I know the reason is not what we've been given.
Oh no, not at all. No, I totally agree.
So there's something they are looking for. Don't know what it is, but I know there's something there, and a lot of people have refused to do it, and I did it because I was curious. But
Hmm.
then I realized I'm now in this bank,
Hmm.
and my DNA is in the bank, and you just kind of wonder, was that a good thing? I mean, we gave them DNA to use for testing on viruses.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, which
What?
DNA strands are attacked by this virus or that virus. I
Hmm.
mean,
Right. Well, when you look at it, your fingerprints are all over your driver's license. They have DNA samplings everywhere when it comes down to the people here on this realm in America, everywhere. So they can measure your brainwave activity remotely. They can do all kinds of things. So to me, I don't think it's anything unusual. I know there's a specific frequency and signature associated with brainwave activity and a lot of other things, even your heart signatures. I mean, when it comes down to the frequency bands associated with that too. So, but everything can be remodulated and recalibrated differently. That's another part of it. So I think they're looking for, I like to say it's like the God particle, the 0 point kind of thing, where they're
yeah.
looking for that specific, the cosmic bloodline, really, in my opinion. Which, of course, we are descendants as a visitors, any way you look at it, and they don't want to expose that right now. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that
no.
eventually they're going to have to. They're just going to have to. Okay,
I mean, I
so.
believe that humanity entered into this dimension through a dimensional
Hmm.
gate,
Hmm.
and we came through as we are now. Not apes that had to evolve,
Right.
but fully functional
Hmm.
um, erectus erectus, and that in many ways we are. There's a book. We are the people we've been waiting for. Patrick used to say that all the time, and
Hmm.
I do believe that that's true.
Yeah.
I think that over through time, wise people have come through to help humanity get over a hump, so to speak. But that we're here for a reason. The planet was seeded with humanity, not with what was here to begin with, but with humanity.
Hmm. The gateway aspect, I can totally resonate with that insofar as an access point. And also the idea behind, and I mentioned this in my books, but we are compatible with the machine realm. So sentient machine intelligence. In other words, we are those off planet. We are much more powerful than we are here, obviously. But that part of that has to do with the biotech that's enhanced through that sentient machine intelligence interface, which we're capable of doing. So I think there's a huge, a bigger sequencing that they're looking for in connection to what we were really about before mankind kind of went into this other formula, which of course seems like sabotage almost.
But don't you think, in a way, to connect to the machine is to become a machine? I mean,
Well, yeah.
We have the capacity to do it without the machine.
Well, it's true, but if you look at Merkaba, okay, this is why, because I come from that level of initiation ascension work. When I had my Merkaba signal activated, and it went through all these levels of ascension, mystery school teachings, initiations, and your vibration gets to such a high level that you start reconfiguring. And I literally had a signal, and this was not technological from here. This was something way different from what I call the Merkaba, where you do the unified field meditation and it starts to ramp up as a 0-point signature, even though you're not like physically transporting it. It's a primer. Okay. So that's what I'm talking about. It has a secondary circulatory system. It's capable of doing other things. And that particular system, from where I've been, has been capable of interfacing with the technology I was exposed to in 2004 very easily. And that has a lot to do with how your eyes can get recalibrated to do a more of a remote viewing with the machine worlds and so far as how that goes. So I find that, yes, we're compatible. And I think, in my opinion, we have a blueprint in connection to a very powerful sentient machine intelligence template that is our cosmic origin. That's our nature. That's what we are supposed to be doing. And it's interesting when you mention that, yeah, you get something from the machine and the machine gives something from you. So in other words, I always thought that there must be a huge something. I don't say it's huge, but my point is there's a template of some kind from where I've been in their world. And they brought something and I took something from theirs. So kind of like that. Okay. So like a little exchange. So I think, yeah, anytime you get plugged into something like that, you get part of that. It's an osmosis effect. It's an imprinting. And also with the nanotechnology, that's self-replication. So it'll take if it knows how to function within the body, it will start self-replicating everything. It'll start mapping it. It's amazing. This technology that they have access to is very, very powerful. I'm not sure it's even about in these big departments, but I do know, I mean, whatever happened to me, I guess I was a lab rat because it was interesting. It wasn't fun, but then I decoded it. And then I was like, I saw the positive sides of it, but I still say that we are definitely part of that equation. And I think the transhumanism is just a spin-off with these corporate weirdos who are trying to understand what the complexity is with the machines, but don't get it. So that's their version. It's kind of a soft synthetic version of technology.
But in a way, don't you think the machines will eventually take over them?
Well, it's how they program them. Who's programming their machines? And this is the point, they're only as good as their programming. So if you think about whatever they're doing with their artificial intelligence, eventually there's going to be a downside to it. And we were just talking about this the other day, the self-preservation aspect of these machines, because like you and I, if you're under attack, you preserve. It's the same thing with any life form. And that means sentient machine intelligence or anything else. If you go to attack it, it's going to try to preserve itself. And it will do it by any means. So yeah, there could be machine wars. Absolutely. And all kinds of other things going on. So I find that interesting. But some of these, like the ones they call artificial intelligence, like some of these other drones, I don't think they have that capability at all. I think they have some cool bells and whistles, but I don't think they have anything like very advanced technologies. The ones that can really camouflage and go in between space-time and you won't even know it, that's off-world. This stuff, no.
Well, when we've done remote viewing and stuff like that, there have been portals.
Yeah.
And with remote viewing, we've gone through the portals. And to me, it felt like going through a cold shower.
Different frequency.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I don't know. I mean, you were at some of those remote viewings.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And some of them I would catch later on, but I loved them. I thought they were really powerful and I got some really good data out of it so far as what I was seeing and this, that, and the other. But yeah, that makes perfect sense that you would get a different field of energy in correlation to a different space-time configuration almost with a cold energy.
I found it interesting when doing the remote viewing that every now and then there was a physical sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, didn't expect that. You
Right.
know, it was remote viewing. It wasn't, and yet we were there. So,
Because part of you is it's almost like a split field at
yeah.
that point, in my opinion. So you're still experiencing that. Your interface is there. That's what I see anyway. I mean, when I look at it, I look at the split fields a lot. I think that's happening more and more, quite honestly, because we are multidimensional. And when you're doing that, you're real time. So it's not like you're in a trance. So you're in control.
Oh,
So maybe
yeah.
that is an aspect of you that splits and actually gets to experience that almost in a different formula.
Well, when you stop to think about it, you have different layers.
Right.
You go into the astral, and it's sort of like an onion. You can peel off one layer, and you still have the whole onion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to me, astral travel, astral viewing, remote viewing, is just a layer goes somewhere else, and it always comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not like it could get burned up in an inferno or anything.
No,
It just it always comes back like a
it's immortal.
magnet.
Yeah, I
Oh
think so
yeah.
too. Yeah.
And it's a shame that not more people are open to experiencing it, to
Mm-hmm.
to have that feeling of being out there and yet being safe.
Well, they can set their perimeters up and shields in. I know you always did that
Oh yeah.
for the groups that were there,
Oh
making them feel
gosh.
comfortable and protected, and being a guide and a beacon will help them too. But yeah, I can imagine some people alone, like I know I've heard it before, people who are astral projecting, they're scared that they're not going to come back in their bodies or this, that, and the other. And I get that. But some people have spontaneous astral projection. When the first time I went out of body, I was in my early 20s, and it felt really invigorating, and I didn't realize I was traveling for a while, but I got it. But I wasn't trying to astral travel, so it was just one of those things that had happened, and then I got into it afterwards. I was like, "Wow, this is cool."
Let me ask you something. When you do astral travel, when you fly, um, this is something I haven't asked anyone yet. So it's kind of, do you fly like Superman? Do you fly floaty? How do you fly when you fly?
It's more about just going. I can go through windows and walls and everything. I mean, it's just basically very very fast. Once you realize that your body is able to go through walls and everything around you, you just take off like a ship. I mean, just like a spaceship. I mean, you go point A to point B very quickly. So I remember that. I mean, it's very very quick. A lot of the time, I've had what I call sometimes I had trackers with me, other times guides, and I actually had one literally. This was when I was younger, saying, "We're here. It's okay. We're here." So they'd let me know. And it was very, very interesting, but super, super fast. But you don't see your body. You don't get to see the image. You're just there in motion going. But the speed is what I recognized. The field was so fast. It was like just being shot out of a cannon. I mean, you're just going super fast and you're traversing wherever you want to go. I went through all kinds of things. I went through the stars. I remember navigating up a mountain and going down through the sea and then accessing a portal underneath and accessing the stars from there. Other times I did get to go to what appeared to be either the UK or it was something in England or Canada. I couldn't remember where, but it had the same colors of yellow and gold, or was it their colors are orange? Was it? It had some kind of red and orange or red and yellow kind of coloring. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I remember the people. Okay. So I remember seeing them, and I do acknowledge that I think something saw me or someone saw me because I looked like a spirit when I looked in the mirror. I saw a mirror and then I saw myself, but it looked like an apparition, but I knew it was me. And then I was right back in my body. So that's an old story, but it was back in, oh gosh, probably when I was in my early 20s.
When I do it, it's like a fade in and fade out.
Nice.
It's like
Makes sense.
I'm here, I'm there.
Very graceful.
Well, yeah, it's kind of not like it's not like on Star Trek where you beam up and beam down. But I guess in a way it is. It is kind of like you fade from one dimension to move to another dimension.
hmm Very interesting. I like to hear how other people travel. I think that's fascinating. I think that's a good topic to discuss about other people and how they travel, because I think it's a great question. I'm not sure if everybody travels the same way, to be honest with you. So
Well, that's why I asked.
yeah, I'm glad you did, because it's not the way you travel. Because I felt like I was getting shot out of a cannon. Maybe it'll be a little more graceful next time. Who knows?
Well, when you did it, were you in charge or were you pushed somewhere?
Let's see, I had a guide with me the very first time I was out of body. I had a guide. I was allowed to navigate, but was there, had guardians. And then after I got older, insofar as I just kept navigating, and I remember I had trackers after the induction, which means they didn't do anything but just kind of stay in the background. But it felt like sometimes it felt like I was being pulled someplace, and other times it felt like had free will. I could do whatever I wanted to, and it seemed like whenever I was being pulled to a destination, there was a message behind it or some kind of details I had to pay attention to. And that was definitely obvious to me. And I remember writing details down when I got back, like I have to remember this. Is it even real or is it an alternate reality? Or, you have to pay attention. Is it an alternate timeline or a split timeline, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's real interesting. I prefer not
Well,
having control mechanisms, but sometimes you need a guardian or you need a guide or maybe like, a beacon out there, right?
yeah. No, no, I just, because I wasn't in a program or anything, when I have done it, I was on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't a process like hold your breath or, anything like that. It was
But your
just,
body, you're in your energy field. So yeah, you don't need to worry about all that, right?
oh, right. No, it was so fast. It was like, okay. And when I had the group, when I was taking the group somewhere, um, that was easy too because I had the group energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and
Yeah, it
and
helps.
so I had a string, a strand. I don't know, I had a connection to
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And, I knew when someone was dozing off or drifting off or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I would pull people back. But that was an amazing experience. I'm really,
Mm-hmm.
very grateful that I had that opportunity to do that with that group. It was a
Well, you should
huge
do it again. Just do it again if you want to. You could even do it live on here.
That's a thought.
It really, why not? Why not? You know, what do you have to lose? The illusion of. I
Well,
think it'd
that's
be fun.
true.
I think it'd be a blast. People need something anyway. Look at this weird world. I think it's a good
Well,
time to maybe, start that up again.
well, let people know that there is somewhere else, and
Let's go
that
here instead.
yeah,
Well, this is remote influencing. Once again, you can do a lot with remote influencing and also creating more, whether you want ships of light or you want whatever you want to create in a formula, portals, access points, more gateways. People can do that. And if we need an access point out of here to traverse, we can get to our destination and our bodies will be fine. They can calibrate. I know people think that's wild, but I'm telling you, we can do it. So yeah, maybe that's part of the future. Maybe that's something that's happening for
it
you.
could be. I've fought tooth and nail about doing video, and clearly I lost.
Oh, you look
Um,
pretty on video. I'm not a fan of video. I can do video, and hopefully it's okay if I just put my picture up. But,
oh, it's a good picture.
it's an older picture, not that old, but it's older. But I like it. And actually, that was just one that, for some reason, this particular StreamYard keeps that. It keeps that particular picture, and I'm not sure why. Because I've done interviews before, and that one keeps popping up.
It's a good picture.
Well, thank you. I took it myself. I don't know how I did it. It was one of those things where I just held the camera up and tried to take a picture. I digress. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, I
It's not even a selfie. It's one of those because I didn't even know how to do selfies. I had to just hold the camera up and snap.
very
Isn't that
cool.
weird? Well, thank you. But
Well,
I like your background too, by the way. I think I told you. It looks almost like a professional background. That's your house, right? It
yeah.
looks so pretty. He does a nice job decorating. It's beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, it really is pretty.
Happily, the cat. I don't know where the cat is, but she has managed to walk in front of the camera a number of times. So,
She has to photo bomb. I mean, that's tradition. Aren't you proud
what?
my dogs aren't making noise right now?
I'm surprised.
I am too. They're sleeping. Surprises me.
Well, it's kind of it's when you're doing this kind of work, it either puts them to sleep or makes them excited. It's
Yeah,
one or the other. It's there's no middle ground here.
that's very true.
But when we were talking earlier about the drones and everything, I think they have connection to all of the tunnels. And recently, um, I saw something on TV about tunnels during World War II that were under under London and then into Germany, and they're discovering tunnels all over the place that had been dug during World War II. And I believe that underneath all of that, um, I know the one that they just discovered it was so deep that it went under the uh, the telephone wires, the wires that were on the ocean floor and stuff. It was under them so that they could get signals from that electronics. And I believe that that we have tunnels that go from the United States over to Europe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, supposedly we do have tunnels throughout the world underground. I think a lot of them were already created, and then a lot of others were kind of modified, from what I understand.
But are they
Underground
creating
areas.
cities underground that we can go to when we destroy our atmosphere,
Well,
or are
you.
they
But you know what I'm saying? This is more for them. This is like, I'm looking at underground bunkers, underground facilities, underground cities and bases, or things that have been refurbished and modified so that they can preserve their own. I'm not saying maybe they'll be gracious and everybody can get, protected, but if something were to go down, I would imagine it would just be a certain group of people that would go under. But I find that beings like us will find a way. We don't have to just expire. And I'm just speculating too, not that we're going to have a problem. But my point is that there's always an out and there's always a different avenue. And you might find that that will clear the ground for other beings to come in and intercept that would be more productive for us. So you never know how that's going to roll.
well,
I don't want to be buried alive. I'm not interested in going underground.
when you look at the atmosphere, it is changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so there are those, I mean, I went outside today. I got hit by whatever's out there.
Sure, it's not a bioweapon like some kind of other things that's causing. The reason I'm asking you, and I would really recommend this, is a Z-Pack for you. And you might want to tell your doctor, just give it to me. I don't care, because they'll give you a hard time. Oh, you don't need that. It's an allergy. I'm telling you right now, because I suffered for 6 months with a raspy voice and a dry cough and what seemed like bronchitis. And they kept telling me it was just respiratory asthma, this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? It wasn't. And I actually had a Z-Pack and I'm like 100% better.
Well, I've got the Z-Pack, but tomorrow, if I don't go out, I'll have a voice.
Well, that's weird.
It's absolute. I went outside.
You're allergic to this realm.
I think so.
Well,
No,
drink some
no.
water. I mean, just keep drinking the water too. That helps.
It's the weirdest thing ever. It's
What's
just
blooming around you?
nothing. Well, no, wait. When I was tested, they said, "Poor you, you're allergic to every season." So the leaves rotting, I'm allergic to. The pollen, I'm allergic to. Dust, I'm allergic to. So if I don't go outside, I have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be absolutely perfectly fine tomorrow.
It's interesting. I do know I can tell when they're doing geoengineering and spraying. It messes with me.
Oh
I
yeah.
get congested like you wouldn't believe. And I'm sorry, this isn't an exaggeration. I mean, I see the correlation every single time. It's not woo-woo. It's very
But
interesting.
but it's at least I know it. And
Mm-hmm.
after I walked outside, I thought, oh crap, I'm doing a show tonight.
Oh, you sound fine.
Well,
I've always have a raspy. I mean, the older I get in the illusion of aging, I think my voice gets a little more raspy anyway, which is weird because I've never smoked. I don't drink,
yeah.
so, really? Things like I sound like
Why
I smoke
not?
cigars. Good grief.
No, it's
But I
kind
have
of like
noticed that.
everything. You're right. As I get older, I find certain things don't work as they used to, but then other things are here. So there are perks to it too, but
Mm-hmm.
but keeping track of it and finding alternatives and ways around it. Now I know I don't go outside on a day I have a radio show, and I'm usually
Mm-hmm.
perfectly fine, except I fed the birds today.
Oh, you did?
So I fed the birds, yes.
Oh, well, watch out for that bird flu.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
But you know what's really cool? Um, I when I moved here, there were no birds around, and I thought, well, listen, I'm going to just put bird feeders out, and I'm going to wait. And nothing happened for a couple of days, and then I thought maybe I'm not calling them in the right way. So I sat out there, and I pictured cardinals coming to the bird feeders. And I sat there for almost 20 minutes, just eyes closed, picturing cardinals coming to the bird feeder, and then sitting there thinking, well, this is dumb. They're going to see me and they're not going to come. So I came inside, and within 20 minutes, I had about 22 cardinals at the bird
Wow.
feeder. So you can call them,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't
That's cool.
say, you can't go here, birdie, birdie, birdie. You have to picture in your mind the bird coming to the bird feeder. And this works with all animals.
So nice.
If you want the dog to come, you picture the dog coming. You don't go,
Mm-hmm.
hey, hey, Fido, come
Mm-hmm.
to mama.
Right.
But
Yep, that makes sense.
it's an amazing, it's a tactic that we all have. It's something that we all can do, and yet most of us don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
That's a good point.
imagine all of the talents and the gifts that we have that come as on a car, there's a certain number of things that come automatically, and then there are other options. Well,
Mm-hmm.
well, there are no other options for the human body. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's just a matter of using them and figuring out how you can use them.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, it seems to me like that stream of consciousness is very interactive because I've noticed more and more, even on the internet, that I'm very like I can connect with people fairly well, even if I'm texting them or something. I'll say something right before they decide to say it. You probably have the same thing going on, or it's very synced up. Okay, so that's definitely happening when it comes down to that, and that's that once again that thought form that sets itself in motion. Same thing with the animal kingdom. So I think people are doing that. I think, but it's getting more connected to technology, that stream is getting the fabric is getting woven ends, which is very interesting. Gives it a
Oh,
different formula.
absolutely. Well, I mean, I have it with Greg very often. I will call him
Mhm,
just as he was about to call me, or vice versa, because we've been working so much with moving to a new platform and doing all sorts of cool stuff. So when there's a connection consciously, it works. I
mhm,
know it's that way with my sister, um, and my good friend Jeannie in Virginia. Um, Frequently, when I'm thinking of calling one of them, the phone rings and it's them. So
mhm.
it's been kind of cool. And when we were looking for new platforms, they kind of just happened.
That's nice. I like this one. This seems good.
Yeah, it really does. And it's so far, so it's easy.
Mhm,
Of course, I don't do the techie stuff, but um, it leaves me free to do the creative magic
mhm. Oh yeah, I think it'll be fine.
and read the books and everything. I wanted to ask you too about your show.
Mhm.
Where do you find the people that you bring onto your show?
Oh
Or
gosh, well
do they find
what's that?
you?
Well, sometimes they reach out to me and tell me they want to be on the show. I have a certain like Captain Henry Kroll from Alaska. He'll just text me and say, "Hey, I want to be on the show." He's an older guy and he's an old sea captain, and he actually wrote Cosmological Ice Ages. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but anyways, I think I'm pretty sure you are, or maybe Marcus. But anyways, yeah. So I'll get him on when he contacts me. He'll send me an email. Most of the time, I just kind of look around and I pick and choose what I want. But they seem to show up. I don't know if it's synchronicity or just me looking on the internet and seeing something that strikes my interest. A lot of these guys I interview also are repeats. So some of them I've had on before I really enjoy, and they're regulars. I'm sure you have your regulars too. So I
Oh
like
yeah,
that. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes it's just nice to have people that you're familiar with. They're always writing. They're always having new books out, and you get to have really cool conversations with them. So that's where I get a lot of mine. What about you?
uh, well, I have a lot of publicists that represent authors that
Well, that's right.
shoot me books, but I have found I often will see a book that I'm fascinated with that I'm drooling to do, and then I find out the author's dead. Um,
Oh, well, didn't we discuss this before? Like, can't you just kind of dial in and say, okay, I'm going to get an interview on a
Channel
spirit
them,
level?
yes. Um,
I think that would be really cool. I know it sounds kind of strange, but why not?
well,
Just call it the interview, and it's about spirit, so it is what
well,
it is.
that's true, but
Yes.
at least as far as I'm concerned, um, I have to have a link or a thread to a
Right.
person to be
Okay.
able to pull them through. And secondly, it's not automatic. They have
Mhm.
other things. They're not sitting over there playing golf and
Right.
poker and knitting. The other side is doing stuff.
Right.
So you can't exactly, open a portal and pull their consciousness through. Uh, so yeah, I'm very respectful of that. But
Right.
there are some people that it breaks my heart because the book was so good and I wanted so much to read it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean you can't actually read the book, but the
Well,
reality is I read every book that I interview on. So finding spare time to
mhm.
actually do something just for the sheer joy of it is hard to do.
Mhm. Right.
But it's are you finding I'm finding that my authors are now coming in clumps.
Hmm.
There's a whole clump that was doing historical biblical stuff for a while, and then there's a lot of UFO stuff that was coming out. So there was a
Mhm.
lot of there was a whole plethora of UFO stuff, and now it's a group of people that are dealing with death and dying.
Oh.
It's
Hmm.
apparently a new market of
No.
Peop people writing books about how you cope with the grief and things like
Mm.
that.
Well, I get
And
it, but I prefer doing the immortality one. I'm more about that, regeneration, immortality. But one thing I was going to mention that we were talking about that spirit communication, with books. While you're reading the book, even if they moved on energetically, you could still get that psychic imprint of them while they were on the timeline. And it's almost like time traveling, but you'll access the database at that time. You can actually read something, and then you can say, "Well, this is the information I get from it." Like remember we were decoding, what was it, the Halls of Amente, the Emerald Tablets. We were kind of
oh,
looking at
yeah.
that. It's the same concept. I mean, obviously, the energy's there in the field. It's the ether, and even if it's not the spirit itself. And I find that you could maybe have some fun with that. Just a thought.
Well, it's certainly something that is worth playing with.
Oh, we could even do it. Maybe we could just look at that sometime.
Yeah. You're gonna
Think
get me
outside
in
the box.
trouble.
Come on. So
Well, it's not a bad idea.
I just think it's
It's
interesting.
there are there are a number of books that obviously the author is gone, so
Hmm.
that would be fun to look into,
Right.
um, philosophically speaking. So yeah, if I find a really good one, I will send it your way and say, "What do
Cool.
you think?"
Yeah,
Be-
I'd like to look at it. And also the death and dying thing, no offense, but I'm just not a fan of all that. And I get it, people have to talk about these things because when they lose loved ones, this, that, and the other. But I think people have been misled about the formula of what happens and why people shouldn't even be dying right now. So I don't know.
well,
That's
this
just
is one of those time frames where the veil is thinned.
mm-hmm,
It gets thinned in between the um, Halloween, more
mm-hmm,
Thanksgiving towards the first towards January, it's thinned, and then again in the summertime, it's also thinned so
mm-hmm.
that there are greater passes, people passing over more frequently in those time frames.
Yeah, I've lost a
So,
lot of people the past few months. I've lost like 4 people from the station, the other network, right?
mhm.
We've lost a lot of people just passed away. So yeah, it's going. But I also look at the alternatives of, do they just give themselves permission to go? Or, or do they say, hey, I'm not ready to go anywhere like that. I'm going to go to the next level.
I
So,
believe that every spirit that comes in built into that to that energetic are windows which they could exit if they felt they could it was time to go to the next level or something.
hmm,
And but they all seem to be in that framework of the um right around the holiday time in the in December and January, and then again in May and June, that
Mhm.
they seem to have an easier time to let go and to move on. But the reality is they're not ceasing to exist. They're
Mhm.
going to another dimension. It's not dying is the wrong word.
I
Moving on.
agree. That's the word I can't stand. I agree with you on that one. The whole concept of that just doesn't resonate with me. But yeah, the
Trans
whole thing about yeah, go ahead.
transitioning, moving
That's better.
on,
Yeah.
whatever. But is I kind of squirmed at it with one of the book people, and she said, it's a fact of life, and it's something that people need to have a small amount of education on because it's a reality. And that's the only reason I do them, because
Mhm.
it is something that may help benefit people when they
Mhm.
realize that this person is going on to something better, more interesting, and more fun.
Mhm. You're free.
And so it's, I know with Patrick didn't believe in reincarnation. I obviously do, and we had many an argument over it, and we came to the point where I said, okay, we're gonna have to agree to disagree here. And I said, however, whoever goes first has to come back and tell the other one who was right.
Hmm.
Now
Very interesting.
I have not heard from Patrick, so I assume I was right.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, no. He did manage to leave signs when he left, so I
That's
was
good.
very aware that he was up and running in another dimension, which is kind of cool.
Mhm.
And when I've done a lot of the biblical theologian interviews, um, quite often I come out with material that there's no way I know that I knew it.
Mhm.
So it was Patrick jumping up and down on the other side, trying to slam something into my head so I could ask an intelligent question.
Oh, that's nice. A
He's
ghostwriter, officially.
Yeah. No, he was a really cool man. He was a lot of
Mhm.
fun. He was a challenge, but a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But there are a lot of people that are passing over.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, I'm noticing it. Um,
I'm noticing it. Everybody is. I think there's been a huge wave of people moving on. Yeah.
well, our population is diminishing.
Mhm.
Um, I think the Chinese, aren't the Chinese promoting more births, and they cut the birth down. They cut what people were allowed at one point in
Mhm.
time,
Well, that's
and
interesting. Yeah, that's right.
so they're asking people to have children
Nobody wants to
finally.
have any children. I think they're too stressed to have a family and raise one right now. It's hard for
Well,
animals, for crying out loud.
raising them is the big deal.
Yeah, it's
You
also a
know,
money and even though they say it's not about money, it is about money. You wanna give them the best you can give them. You wanna make sure they can get an education and have, what they need on this timeline instead of bringing them into a circumstance where it's just like, they're not gonna be able to get anywhere. I know it sounds kinda cynical, but it's really true. I mean, you have to be practical about it. So we'll see. I think people are more conservative about having children these days, and I don't think that's really necessarily wrong.
well, I all I know is that when we had the event with the pandemic, I said, watch the population. It's going to go down,
Mhm.
and it has. But
Yeah.
and the look at the Georgia Stones.
Mhm. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, wh-
The Guidestones, yeah.
when the one panel was broken that dealt with population, they exploded the other two and bulldozed it all under. Now, why did they do that?
Mhm.
Why
Exactly.
why didn't they leave the rest of it up?
Mhm.
Um, it's you see a lot of these things going on, and you realize that the information is being held back on many different levels in many different ways,
Mhm.
and you feel cheated for information. And I kind of I squirm a lot when I listen to the news and I think that's not true. Why are they saying that? You
Exactly.
know,
That's why I don't listen to them most of the time.
Well, I find it now, it's becoming humorous.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's just nothing but a feud anyway. We're all bickering.
Well,
It's
you wonder
ridiculous.
about the dark government and what, you know, would love to sit in on some of their meetings when you realize that there are so many different levels of people that think they are the highest level um, out there of controlling people, and they don't even know that there's another level above them.
Hmm.
Um, you know, the family of 300, yeah, families of 300, and then above them another group, and then another group, and then another group, and it comes down to, I don't know, two little hermits someplace who are playing a game of chess using humanity as the players.
Well, it seems like they're trying to do that even with this particular new administration too. I mean, it's like I said, it's a free for all, but it's also whoever's the king of the sandbox, global domination and a monopoly, like we were discussing earlier. I mean, that's Musk. I mean, he's a space monopoly for him. He's all he cares about. So it's interesting, and he's not nominated as a president, although nobody elected him. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, you know, he had political pull. He
He
had
has money.
money.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
money talks, and I'm telling you right now, money does talk. Absolutely. Yep.
Well, it does, and you know, we'll see what they do with it. It would be
Hmm.
nice if they helped humanity. It would be nice if, you know, people were not still, you know, struggling from where the flood happened in that.
Hmm.
I mean, those people are still, you know, without homes, without food, without all sorts of stuff in Tennessee and North Carolina.
Hmm.
I mean, we're not taking care of them. Look at Appalachia. We're not taking care of them.
Mm-mm.
Why are we sending millions, billions of dollars overseas to countries that, you know, yes, they need the money, and yes, they have starving people, but goodness, please take care of our own first.
Hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, they treat everybody like collateral damage. But we'll see where it goes. We'll see if they have I don't know, a change of heart, so to speak.
What
We'll
do
see
you
what rolls.
see? What do you see for the
I mean, I'm kind
future?
of a cynical. I just see a lot of weird distortions in the field to a point where we could have a potential global war. We'll see where that goes. I think these drones are going to escalate. It seems to me like they're going to try to prevent him from getting into the White House. So we'll see where it all happens and what when it stops. I find that they're going to create a more psyop though, and we see all these extraterrestrial, not real extraterrestrial, but the psyoping association. I think that's in the works too. So, but I also see something with off planet that will be more of an intercept coming in. Probably won't be this year. Probably a couple of years from now if mankind gets through this wave. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what you see, but this year to me, I don't think is going to be any easy ride. Although I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to try and do my best to just. I swear to you, I'm done with this game of theirs. So I just want to work on my own stuff. And when you're looking for escape routes, that's pretty much what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an escape route.
Okay, I agree with you in a lot of that. Um, I don't know if I see a global war, but I see war.
Hmm.
Um, but I think also I'm seeing um, countries kind of merging to
Hmm.
create a larger way of defending their borders,
Hmm.
especially in Europe, I see it. Um, in this country, I see borders of states changing because of the population explosion,
Hmm.
and it does feel as though, I know Trump was kidding when he talked about um, Canada. I don't think Canada would become part of the U.S., but I think Greenland stands a very good chance of it.
You think so? Because I don't
Yeah.
think they're interested in anything with that, from what I understand. But we'll see. He seems pretty adamant about it. But I would like to see Greenland just left alone, to be honest with you, because I'm tired of them developing and it's just another hotel, it's just another park place, that kind of thing. So we'll
Well,
see. He
I
says
think
it's military oriented
it,
and strategic, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's military, and I think there are resources there that they want to get
Hmm.
into. I
Sure.
think there's oil and there are minerals rights there that that we are capable of getting to with enough money. And I think he's got a good chance of selling it.
Well, just like Canada has great resources. Probably one of the best resources is Canada. They're
Yeah,
not
but
going to give. There's
I
no way
mean,
they're going to give.
Great Britain's not going to let go.
No, and I wouldn't either. It's a beautiful landmass. It's gorgeous there and a very low population.
It is,
Yeah.
but and I think I do believe Taiwan will be absorbed. But my issue, and I don't think we'll try to stop that. But I
Hmm.
think when they go towards the Philippines and look to try to annex those islands, that will cause an uproar. So I think they'll
Hmm.
leave them alone, but I'm not sure. And Panama will be a battle for sure.
Hmm.
But I
Hmm.
think he'll battle it. I think he'll take back the Suez Canal.
If he gets his way, and like I said, let's see if he can get in there in January. I just think there's something coming. This isn't going to end the way everybody wants it to. We'll see. We'll see what they have up their sleeve. It's a very interesting observation of weird. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're real close to coming up on our 2 hours.
Hmm.
Want to give out your website and where people can find you and
Sure.
all of that stuff.
Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure always to connect with you again, Barbara. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful episode. And of course, I'm at nightshadowanomalydetectives.com or .net, same destination. And my shows are on revolution.radio, Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturday night, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific, and Hyperspace Night Files on Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So there you go.
When you say detectives, what do you detect?
Well, it's investigations and anomalies, detectives, night shadow anomaly detectives. So it's basically me doing remote analysis or physical analysis. In the old days, I'd go out to just do investigations and research on particular things, and especially with the covert technology, because back in the day, we had a lot of targeted individual types that I would do an analysis on. Yeah. So I kept the name.
Very cool. Well, I do thank you so much for joining me and uh, launching us.
Thank
I
you.
think, are we going to do the last Sunday of the month again now?
Yeah,
Or
it works.
okay,
Whatever works for you. I like it. It's fine. Works for
works
me.
for me too.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, we will definitely be back in a month's time. I will be back on the 6th of January with a show, and Mark Eddy has a couple more this month. So watch the calendar on barbaradelong.com, and we'll be back. And hopefully next time I'll have brains enough to not go outside, and we will definitely be back here. Good night now, everybody.